Good evening. I'll call this meeting of the Council of the Town of Fort Francis to order, it being session number 79, and we'll begin as we always do with a territorial acknowledgement. In the spirit of reconciliation, the Town of Fort Francis acknowledges with respect that it is situated on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and the Métis people of Treaty 3. And we give gratitude and honor to the ancestors, elders, and all Anishinaabe and Métis people for sharing their resources and knowledge with us. Councillors, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? If so, state the general nature thereof. Seeing none. Go to item number 4, and tonight we officially kick off our 2026 budget deliberations with public consultation. Is there anyone in the gallery that wishes to provide input to the budget? Having made eye contact with everyone, I'll take that as a no. Is there anyone online who would like to provide input to the 2026 budget? Last call for folks online. If you're online and would like to provide input to the 2026 budget, now is your chance. Okay, I would say that we have no input at this time. We'll move to item number 5, which is the public hearing. We have citizens being invited to speak on item 10.3, 357, an application for 835 Fernet Avenue. Is there someone here who wishes to speak to that? Is there anyone online who wishes to speak to the application of 835 Fernet Avenue? Last call to speak to the public hearing on 835 Fernet Avenue. Moving on to item number 6, presentations. There are none scheduled, and so we go to correspondence. 7.9 is a water line issue. And I'm going to put an oral motion on the floor, and then we can discuss this. The resolution that I'll put on the floor is that Council direct administration to bring a report back on the water line issue correspondence in the 4th quarter of this year. Could I get a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Mackey and Councillor Bien. Discussion, councillors. Staff? Okay, calling the question, all in favor? That's carried. And no one was opposed. Item 7.2, we have correspondence from the Fort Francis Canadians hockey team requesting to consider waiving dumping fees. Again, I'll put an oral motion on the floor and then we can discuss that one. Oral resolution that I put on the floor is that Council agree to waiving the dumping fees for the U11 Fort Francis Canadians Fort Francis hockey team. Can I get a mover and seconder on that? Councillor Firth, Councillor Morrison. Discussion, councillors? Councillor McTaggart.
Thank you, Your Worship. I did reach out to the author of the letter and suggest that they might also consider using the pits that Darrow's Landscaping use as an option too, a little closer to town for them.
Great, thank you. Okay. Did administration have any comments? Yes, Manager Rob.
Thank you through the chair. Just in terms of waiving the landfill fees, in terms of managing that at the landfill would be very challenging because how do we know who is affiliated with this organization and this program? So my recommendation would be to have them pay and then submit to us either downtown or at Public Works their landfill tickets, and then we'd issue them reimbursement.
Would councillors agree to that as a reasonable alternative? So Yes.
Thank you, Worship. I'm just wondering if an alternative would be that the drivers of the handful of vehicles that would be hauling the garbage, if we had that list and you gave them some kind of documentation or something that they show at the window at the weigh scale versus collecting the fees every time and submitting the total amount, if them just having a list that would show who is responsible for that, if that's a possibility.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I have an amendment, which is the amendment that administration proposed, which is submit fees and then apply for reimbursement. And are you proposing yours as an amendment? You can, it's no problem.
Well, I'm thinking more of an alternative to collecting the fees, just presenting some kind of identification that they are exempt for the day.
Right, so we're still waiving fees, but we're just going about it a different way. So that would be an amendment. So you have two amendments. I'll start with the latest amendment, which is the amendment from Councillor Mackey. It says that we provide a list of drivers and they identify themselves. Yes, Sub-Manager Miller.
Good evening, thank you. Through the chair, I just want to point out that in the letter, they say they have two cleanup days on Sunday, September 28th and Sunday, October 19th. The landfill is normally closed on Sundays, so they will need to be aware of that, I guess. So that they can bring it on a Monday or whatever other day, just as long as we know so that we can be prepared.
Thank you for that. Much appreciated. So going back to the amendment, I need a mover and seconder for the amendment from Councillor Mackey, Councillor Firth, Councillor Morrison. On the amendment from Councillor Mackey, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, that amendment fails. Going to the first amendment, which is the amendment proposed by administration that they submit fees and then apply for reimbursement. I need a mover and seconder on that amendment. Councillor Firth, Councillor Behan. Any discussion on that amendment? I'll call the question on that amendment. All in favor? That amendment passes. You want to register your opposition? One opposed? And so we're on back to the main motion, which says that council agrees to waive the dumping fees for the U11 Fort Francis hockey team, but that they will submit fees and apply for reimbursement after the event has taken place. Can I get a mover and seconder on that? Councillor Firth? Councillor Behan? Any discussion on the main motion? On the main, Councillor Morrison?
To the chair, and maybe mention as well about the options of going to Daryl's Landscaping for drop-off.
Would you like to make another amendment?
Yes, I would.
All right. First, we have to vote on this one because it's on the floor. So on the main motion, which is on the floor, all in favor? The main motion passes, and so unfortunately, your amendment is redundant. Well, thanks for that little bit of parliamentary procedure, Council. Moving on to item 7.3, we have correspondence, a proposal to modernize the penalty box canteen at the arena. Again, I'll put an oral motion on the floor, which is that Council direct administration to bring a report back to the budget process on proposal to modernize the penalty box canteen correspondence. Can I get a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Firth, Councillor McTaggart. Any discussion on that one? Councillor Behan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, should we also include, be referred to the budget process for 2026? Or is that would be sort of part of the report?
It says in the budget process.
Okay, sorry, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Any other discussion? Calling the question, all in favor? It's carried, no one was opposed. And that brings us to our last bit of correspondence, correspondence 7.4, which is a request for designated accessible parking space at the Hope Center. Again, I'll put a resolution on the floor that council direct administration to bring back a report on the designated accessible parking space for the Hope Center correspondence in the fourth quarter of 2025. Can I get a mover and seconder on that, please? Councillor Behan, Councillor Morrison. Any discussion on that one? Councillor McTaggart?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm a little confused. Are they looking for something on Church Street?
I believe they are.
And
Oh, sorry. No, I believe they're looking for a spot right in front of the Hope Center.
okay, the picture was, I wasn't clear when they presented the picture, and I think we need a little clarity on where it's going to be.
Okay, and we'll get that in the report.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Calling the question, all in favor? It's carried, no one was opposed. Okay, that brings us to reports. My report is lengthy as always, so I'm certainly not going to read the whole thing. It's published in the agenda so folks can read it, but I will highlight a few things. I did, since the last council meeting, I did 2 interviews. One was a delightful interview with B93. They're launching a new website. I was very pleased to see that. Their website's called yourborderland.ca. And basically, it's an attempt for them to make their website more relevant and to deal with more local events. They've already opened websites in Kenora and Thunder Bay. You can check those out. I checked them out before doing the interview, and they're definitely an improvement. I'm pleased to say that even prior to the opening of the website, which was on a Tuesday, our clerks had already submitted 2 articles, one on the elopement series of weddings and one on the food trucks. So I think that's going to be a real opportunity for us to get some of our messaging out. An event that I really enjoyed and enjoy every year is the Terry Fox Run, and we did 2 events in connection with Terry Fox. On September 8th, we did, and this is the first time we've done that, we raised the Terry Fox flag. In the past, there hasn't been a flag. So it was a real pleasure to have folks from the Terry Fox Committee come down. Our staff and councilors were there. I issued a proclamation, and we raised the Terry Fox flag for the very, very first time. And then on the 14th, we had the official Terry Fox Run, and what a pleasure that was. In my case, it was the Terry Fox Walk, but there was a great turnout. It was a great day. Lots of people there with a positive attitude. I do want to give a shout out to 2 people. We have 2 residents in our community who have gone on every single Terry Fox Run since its inception, and this was the 45th anniversary of the Terry Fox Run. So these 2 individuals have gone 45 times, and between the 2 of them, they have raised, just the 2 of them, in excess of $100,000 in finding the cure for cancer. So a huge shout out to Sandy Stalker and George Walsh, and we'll look forward to seeing them there again next year. Another really, I thought, delightful event was Agency 1 held a celebration on the Agency 1 lands, formerly the Point Park. And again, it was another wonderful day. A really good positive attitude there, a very, very good turnout. We had a large contingent from the town show up, our clerks, our CIO, I went. We had a couple of our councilors go as well. And the 4 chiefs each spoke, and I thought that their speeches were really noteworthy. They were speeches of reconciliation, partnership, and working together and moving forward. The town of Fort Frances was given a shout out by the chiefs for attending. And all in all, it was a great celebration. I would have liked to have stayed longer, but we had a council meeting that night, so we had to leave. I've done 2 interviews on this one. InterVista is a company that's been retained to do a air carrier study focus group for the Fort Frances Municipal Airport and also for Dryden and Kenora. And on September 10th, they had their first of 6 focus groups. I attended, and I extend thanks to Manager Rob for arranging it and setting everything up. There was a good discussion held. In addition to that, there's a survey which is posted on our website, and I encourage as many people as possible to take that survey, because what InterVista is trying to do is they're trying to build a business case for airlines, air carriers, to service Northwestern Ontario, in particular Fort Frances Regional Airport, Dryden, and Kenora. And if we can get enough organizations, enough people saying, yes, this is important to us, here's why we're going to use an air carrier, they'll be able to build a better business case. Plan is they're going to be, after the focus groups are done and the results of the survey are done, they'll be doing some one-on-one interviews. And then towards the end of this year in December, there'll be a report. And then based on that report, they're going to write a business case. And that business case will be then shopped out to various air carriers early in 2026. So there is some good activity going on regarding air carriers for Northwestern Ontario. I suspect, and this is just my personal feeling, that we're going to need some assistance from both levels of government. I think we're going to need some subsidies. The provincial government currently subsidizes bus service, rail service is subsidized, and there's a precedent for this. We've had Air Ontario fly in the past. They flew Dash 8s into our airport. That was heavily subsidized. But I think you can make the case that for small, rural, northern communities where an air carrier is essential to economic development and to healthcare, the government should step up and help out. I do also want to mention, and I sent this out to councillors, that after attending the Agency 1 celebration, we got a very, very gracious thank you note from Agency 1, from their board, and from their CEO, and it was very gratifying to get that. Another really, I thought, outstanding event that we had recently was we had our first, I hope, and it becomes an annual event, our first Burger Wars in Fort Frances. And for anyone that got a chance to go downtown, it was just a great event. The day started off rainy, but then it cleared up and people started coming. There were crowds. There were 5 food trucks. We had a DJ, and then at the evening there was live music. There was a bouncy castle, all kinds of activities for kids. And of course, the highlight of the festival was the burgers. That day was a heavy day for me. I had a number of public appearances, so I had to kind of rush from the Burger Wars to a couple of other appearances. So I only got to sample 2 burgers. But one of the burgers I sampled came from the winning truck, which was the Zamboni burger. So that was a really good thing. And I want to give a shout out to the Rainy River Future Development Director, Angela, and her group of volunteers who put a lot of time and effort in getting this together. And I'm hoping that when in talking to Angela, they sold out their tickets and they had to print extra tickets. So I'm hoping that the food trucks that came will find that as an incentive, that it was profitable for them and that they'll come back next year and that this becomes an annual event. It really was a good event. And just one last one. TBT Engineering in town, which is an engineering group that we use quite frequently, and they do very professional work for the town of Fort Frances, celebrated on this past Friday 30 years of operation. And each of their branches then sponsored an open house. I attended, and Manager Rob was there as well. They were very, very hospitable. And so a shout out to TBT Engineering and for all that they do for our community. And with that, I will go to Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Your Worship. My family and I attended the Community Ricing Day at Couchiching Powwow Grounds and spent the day cooking and processing wild rice. Hope to have some to share in the coming month as I finish cleaning it. The family also attended the Legion barbecue this past weekend. My children really appreciated the scavenger hunt for the bouncy castle. And while there, I was able to catch up with some of our members of our local Kiwanis Club. And I just want to give them a shout out and appreciate all the many different things that they do. My daughter just recently graduated from their literacy program with the Imagination Library, sponsored by Dolly Parton, and Kiwanis is the local facilitator of that. I had the opportunity to visit our neighbor township of Alberton as they celebrated Raise the Roof at their rink and playground. This is going to be a great asset for our district and will open up diverse events and recreation opportunities. Some exciting possibilities. I completed the application for HGTV Hometown Takeover, as they're an American show now coming to Canada this fall and winter, and are looking for a potential host city or town. And so I finished that yesterday evening. I spoke with several developers as we're trying to get ready for our strategic plan refocus, and consistent themes that I've been uncovering are ways to stay connected and informed of tendering and procurements, and what CIP incentives are coming in the foreseeable future, and what level of creative and openness we have as a community. We met with the BIA since last meeting, and we're very excited about the potential of the new Economic Development Officer, and we look forward to working with them. We're also beginning to look at creative ways of generating new funds so that we can do more for the blocks on Scott Street. The mayor mentioned about Burger Wars. I was in attendance for that. Also second that they did a great job. Hope that that continues. I was also at the Agency 1 land celebration, and that was fantastic. I'm glad to see that the winter sports season is upon us. I just want to thank all the many volunteers and the people that make this happen. I wish you a great season of growth and development as you continue to be great ambassadors of Fort Frances. Last week, Thursday, I was a guest on the Cross Border Network podcast, talking about what is great about Fort Frances, our challenges, and what optimism that we have and continue to have as we work together. I appreciate the privilege that I have to talk about Fort Frances, and I hope I represented our community well. I also want to thank the administration and our staff for being available to answer questions and offer support, even though it's last minute. It shows true care and professionalism. Thank you all.
Thank you, Councillor Firth. And regarding the cross-border podcast, I thought you did an excellent job and that you really did represent Fort Frances very, very well. And if anyone hasn't seen Councillor Firth's podcast, I think that's still available online, or we can give you a link to it if you'd like to see it. You did a really good job, Councillor Firth. Councillor McTaggart?
Thank you, Your Worship. Please bear with me. I haven't reported since May, so I have a little longer report. So, and Councillor Mackey has yielded his time to me. So thank you. June 3rd to the 5th, I attended the Ontario Association of Police Service Boards AGM and annual conference in London, Ontario. I was accompanied by board member Lou Kemp from Dawson Township. Also in attendance was Inspector Given, our local inspector. It was a very, very good conference with a strong turnout. And the conference has in attendance both members of municipal boards and OPP detachment boards, and the dynamics of these two groups are different. And what really appealed to me about this conference was that there were training streams for both groups and a special session devoted to the development of detachment boards. They are a new entity in existence for just over a year, and some boards are really struggling to get going. So it was a really good opportunity. At the AGM, I continued in my role of Zone 1 member of the board and was elected as second vice chair. Al Boughton was elected board chair and he replaced long-term chair Patrick Weaver. On June 27th, the Rainy River District West Detachment Board, and you talked about one committee that you're on, Your Worship, needing to change its name. This needs to be shortened out too somehow. We were very pleased to welcome Ellie Lewis as our new board admin, and Chelsea Gregg is the alternative board administrator. At that meeting, we set up a policy subcommittee, and there's a number of policies that as a new board we need to be adopting, and this committee will begin being active this fall. The draft annual report by the board to be distributed to all municipalities represented by the board was approved at that meeting. And the board name was confirmed in order for the OPP to provide the board with approved letterhead and branding for board communications. Board member Lou Kemp reported on his attendance at the OAPSB conference in AGM in London. And just a note that our meeting time has been moved to 9 a.m. after that meeting to allow for those that have to travel further distances. Staff Sergeant Derek McLean delivered the detachment commander's report, and the next meeting, September 22nd. On July 2nd and 3rd, I traveled to Toronto to attend a board meeting for the OAPSB for a planning session for 25-26. We built an action plan for the year ahead, and it'll be unveiled in the near future. Just a heads up, as of January 1st, the OAPSB is going to be rebranded as Police Governance Ontario, PGO. On September 9th, the municipal, and the mayor reported on some of this, but the Municipal Accommodation Tax Committee meeting was held. And I just want to expand on a couple of points in reaching out. The committee is reaching out for partnerships in the district, and we had presentations from the museum and the Mounds. I'm sorry, the pronunciation is escaping me. And on their services and hours of operation, and it was really interesting to understand the history that's in our district and how the MAT committee can work in partnership with that. They're both great opportunities to showcase the history of our district. Priority projects for 25-26 have been identified. There was a new draft brochure that was presented, but needs to be updated a little bit with the addition of a new hotel soon and the rebranding of a current property. So this is the document that was presented. Cameron, our new events coordinator, gave us an update on his activities as he fills out this new portfolio, and he just had a little brief handout to show us at the meeting. A project that I'm excited about is being a little more aggressive in attracting touring motorcycle rides. This can take a form in two ways. One is having those traveling east-west or vice versa to use Highway 11 and 71 to enjoy the scenic route with less traffic than Highway 17. The second opportunity is to attract riders to use Fort Frances as a base and do day rides out of here. There are a couple of fun loops that are easily accessible from Fort Frances, and you can expect more to come on this. The next meeting for the MAT committee is on November the 4th. On September 15th, the city Sister Betty Kennedy Advisory Committee meeting was held. The center is gearing up for a very busy fall and winter, starting with an active living fair tomorrow at the center. The day will feature presentations throughout the day, as well as a number of exhibits for services available for seniors. And the day it'll be a full day with a great lunch provided. The committee reviewed the finances to date, and the center continues to be the most efficient run area of the town. And a shout out goes to all of the volunteers for their contributions. All activities have restarted for fall, whether it's exercise, cards, pool, bingo, or great lunch, or just a coffee. with friends. It's open to all residents 55 and over. Either take a look at the Facebook page or stop by to learn about some of the activities. The committee also reviewed the activities of the Seniors Month, which was June, and all reports were that it was a roaring success. Plans will start soon for next June to make it bigger and better. The next meeting of the advisory committee is October 25th. On September 17th, the Museum and Culture Advisory Committee met at 4:30, and we welcomed our youth member Peyton Hughes. Unfortunately, it was virtual for Peyton. We do still need 2 more members on this committee. If you are aware of someone who might be interested, please reach out to the clerk's office for more information. The highlight of the meeting, as usual, is the curator's report. She advised us that museum hours are now changed to off-season and are Monday to Wednesday and Friday, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Thursday hours are 12 noon to 8 p.m. Over the number, a significant number of donations were made to the collection, which is good news. Then there were a number of programs run over the summer, aimed particularly at school-age children. There were also 6 events that the staff attended and participated in around the community. Current exhibits that are presently in the museum are notable women of the Rainy River District, and something the mayor spoke to. There is a display, The Legacy in Motion, 45 years of running with Terry Fox in Fort Francis. And it's the story of Sandy Soccer pushing his brother, George Walsh, in all 45 Terry Fox runs. Just a terrific story. So stop by the museum to see that till the end of the month. And the third display is the original signed document of Treaty Number 3 adhesion, which is here. It's only here till Friday. It's an opportunity to see a 150-year-old document right here at our own museum. Coming in late October will be a display from Badge to Bench, a local history of policing, courts, and correction. Next meeting is October 24th at 4:30 at the museum. And this morning the OPP Detachment Board met, and I'll report more on it next month, but just 2 quick highlights. We welcome Trevor McCormick to the board as a community representative for the 8 communities to the west of Fort Francis. This now fills out our board. Welcome, Travis. Inspector Givens also announced today that he has accepted a position at regional headquarters that starts on January 2nd. Regional Command has assured me that a replacement process will begin immediately so the candidate will be in position for the first of the year with no. Inspector Givens also announced today that he has accepted a position at regional headquarters that starts on January 2nd. Regional Command has assured me that a replacement process will begin immediately so the candidate will be in position for the first of the year with no revolving door of acting inspectors, which we've run into in the past, and it's not a good situation. Next meeting is October 20th, 9 a.m. at the Town Hall, and I will add kudos also to those that organized Burger Wars. It was outstanding. It was delicious and fun. Thank you.
Perfect timing, Councillor McTaggart. You used up your 5 minutes and Councillor Mackey's 5 minutes right to the second. Okay, that brings us to item 9, which is the consent agenda. We have 5 items on the consent agenda, starting at 9.2. These are regular council meeting minutes. The recommendation reads that council approve the regular council meeting minutes of September 8, 2025 as presented. 9.3 deals with boards and committee meeting minutes, and the recommendation reads that the following boards and committee meeting minutes be received as information. There's 3 of them. The Sister Betty Kennedy Advisory Committee for September 15, 2025. The Fort Francis Municipal Nonprofit Housing Committee for September 17, 2025, and the Indigenous Relations Advisory Committee of June 11, 2025. 9.4 deals with the Mobile Crisis Response Team Enhancement Grant. And the recommendation reads that council approves report AR-25-0895 for the Mobile Crisis Response Team Enhancement Grant and authorizes the mayor and clerk to sign the transfer payment agreement. 9.5 is the POA quarterly financial statements, and the recommendation reads that council receive report AR-25-0886 as information on the POA financial statements for the period ending June 30th, 2025. And finally, 9.6, this is the biannual report on activities by our bylaw enforcement. The recommendation reads that council accept report number AR-25-0896 titled Biannual Report to Mayor and Council on Bylaw Enforcement as Information. Councilors, would you like to pull any of those? Councilor McTaggart.
9.4, please.
Anyone else? Okay, over to you, Councilor McTaggart.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to speak to this and the importance of this grant that we have received and are going to receive. Police officers on the front line are not trained healthcare workers. And this grant allows for a partnership between Fort Francis and CMH, or the OPP and CMHA, to have trained healthcare workers, mental health care workers on the front line. As was reported this morning, the calls for service are the greatest between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. And this is going to allow for coverage for much of that time, and including some weekend coverage. And it's just such a positive move. We've been so fortunate over the past few years to have had one, then 1.5, then 2 mental health workers, and this will allow for expansion of that. So I'm really excited about it. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councilor McTaggart. And I just want to echo Councilor McTaggart's comment. These crisis response workers do an amazing job in Fort Francis, and they really remove some of the stress from our healthcare system rather than repeatedly bringing people with mental issues or addiction issues to the hospital. They get to know them and sometimes can, just by talking to them and counseling them, avoid a trip to the hospital. And I do want to mention as well, Councilor McTaggart said this, but I can't stress enough how well it works when we have a partnership. So the partnership between the OPP, the town of Fort Francis, and the CMHA is a very, very strong one and is getting some really good work done. The final comment I wanted to make on this, the grant was a considerable amount. It was $240,000. Other communities got grants as well, and I would just like to mention that our grant matched the grant that Thunder Bay got, which is $240,000. They often and usually have grants that are much greater than ours when we apply for the same thing. So we're getting some attention here to some of the issues. So thanks for that report, Councilor McTaggart. With that, I'll put a resolution on the floor. The council approve the consent agenda as follows. Agenda items 9.2, 9.3, 9.5, and 9.6. Can I get a mover and seconder, please? Councilor Mackey. Councilor Morrison. Any further discussion? All in favor? It's carried. No one was opposed. Going back to 9.4 then, which was pulled. Recommendation I put on the floor, the council approves report AR-25-0895 for the Mobile Crisis Response Team Enhancement Grant and authorizes the mayor and clerk to sign the transfer payment agreement. Moved by Councilor McTaggart, seconded by Councilor Behan. Any further discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Again, no one was opposed. Okay, moving to item number 10, which is the Administration and Finance Division reports. 10.1 deals with a trial moving of council dates and times. So I'll put a resolution on the floor and we can discuss this. Resolution reads that council trial for the remainder of the council term starting January 1st, 2026, moving regularly scheduled council meetings according to option 1, which is to move council meetings to Tuesdays at 5 p.m. and agenda publishing times to Fridays at 12 p.m. Can I get a mover and seconder on that so we can discuss it? Councillor Firth and Behan. Discussion, councillors. Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Your Worship. Can I hear from admin on the benefits of this?
You absolutely may. Was it the clerk's report? Clerk?
Through the chair, we had brought this forward to a senior manager discussion, and some of the benefits, one of the biggest ones is just to get everyone home half an hour earlier, especially in the winter months. Another reason is some meetings during the year land on holiday Mondays, and this would remove the need to reschedule those.
Thank you for that. Councilor McTaggart? Oh, he's done. Yep.
Thank you. Through you, I'm okay with the 5 o'clock start, but I say that as not having a full-time job, and I would yield to those that are working if it's going to work for them. But I wonder about the switching to Tuesdays. I wonder if that's maybe something that ought to go to the next term of council, to be advertised that the meetings are going to be on Tuesdays, so that if you're running or if you're running for the position, that you know it's going to be Tuesday, because anybody who is now ran or appointed is expecting a Monday meeting, and I don't know how that may affect others. So,
Thank you, Councilor McTaggart. Councilor Morrison?
To the chair, I agree with Councilor McTaggart here. For me, I probably wouldn't have been able to run if it was Tuesdays. It's going to be very difficult for me because I do have work things going on Tuesdays as well. I have no problem with a 5 o'clock start. Just Tuesdays are going to be difficult for me. I can make it work if I have to, but it's just not going to be easy.
I'm hearing that Tuesdays could be difficult, but that 5 o'clock start might be all right. So, councilors, would you be amenable if we change option 1 to be the meetings will stay on Monday, but we'll go to a 5 p.m. start? Is that okay? Councilor McTaggart?
I just wonder if this is maybe something that we could maybe talk a little bit at our strat plan meeting on Saturday, the date of the meeting, going forward to the next term.
So, Councilor McTaggart, are you making a motion to table?
No. But it may be an opportunity to further discuss as we look ahead in strat plan.
Okay, so then we're going to have to vote on this. So I'll leave the resolution as it is, which is to move council meetings to Tuesdays at 5 p.m. and agenda publishing times to Fridays at 12 p.m. And then I'll call the question. All in favor? That's the original motion, moving to Tuesdays and 5 p.m. I thought not. All in favor? Opposed? And it's defeated. Is there any appetite to move it to Mondays at 5 p.m., bearing in mind what Councilor McTaggart said? Councilor McTaggart? Okay, so new resolution, council meetings will stay on Mondays, but will begin at 5 p.m. Moved by Councilor McTaggart, seconded by Councilor Morrison. Any discussion on that? Call that question. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, councilors. Some good discussion there. 10.2 deals with affordable renting housing subclass, and I'll put a resolution on the floor. The council approved report AR-25-0897, agreeing to the recommendation of administration to adopt the new optional affordable rental housing subclass for the multi-residential property class, with a reduction of 10% on the affordable rental housing units meeting the eligibility criteria, and further that a bylaw be brought forward at this meeting. Can I get a mover and seconder for that, please? Councillor Firth, Councillor Behan. Discussion. Councillor Behan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. I understand why you're looking at this and going with the 10% to start, because of the impact it's going to have on other classes. And the way I'm reading it, it sounds like the older residential, multi-residential area units do have to pay a lot more. 1.9 is their ratio versus 1. I guess because the idea of this is to support development and maintenance of affordable rental housing, can I just Madam Treasurer, maybe through you, if she could explain why they decide not to go with offerings for both classes, at least at this point. Thank you.
Madam Treasurer.
Yes, through the chair. So the reason I didn't put the suggestion forward for the new multi-residential is because it is already at the same rate as our residential rate. So the ratio is 1-to-1 for that. Essentially just that reason. At this point, you can see there's minimal in that class, but still, as things come on board, to pay less than residential seems unfair in my opinion.
Thank you, Madam Treasurer. Follow up, you good? Further discussion? Councilor McTaggart?
I understand the rationale behind it. I'm concerned about taking the 10% off of the multi-residential and putting it onto the rest of the tax load and all the ratepayers, and we're just shifting it, and I'm struggling with that one.
Anyone else? Councilor Morrison?
Through the chair, I also agree with Councilor McTaggart, and I just have concerns. I've been hearing from a lot of residents who feel they're already getting maxed out on their taxes. And I worry too, if we even change this, the rent, the supply and demand, there's not much supply and there's a lot of demand here. And I worry that might not even lower the rent in some of these situations. And I just worry about shifting the tax burden to everybody else.
Thanks, Councilor Morrison. Anyone else? I'll weigh in on this. I agree with Councilors Morrison and McTaggart. I am 100% in favor of getting new housing, affordable housing in Fort Francis. This is not the way to do it. What the government is doing here is they're simply shifting the tax burden. They're saying, all right, we're going to create a new subclass and we can tax that subclass at a lower rate. But there'll be no net loss in revenue because the revenue you lose by taxing that subclass at a lower rate will then be attached to all of the other categories, including residential. And folks, quite frankly, our residential taxpayers are overburdened right now. Municipalities were never designed to run on property tax. And if the government is seriously, if the provincial government is serious about helping small rural northern communities affect affordable housing, they need to put new dollars into it, not just taking existing dollars and rearranging them. So I'm going to be voting no on this one. And with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Unanimously opposed. Defeated. Thank you, councilors. Moving on to 10.3. This is an application for tax relief. Recommendation reads that council approve the adjustment of taxes for September 2nd, 2024 to April 1st, 2025 under Section 357 of the Municipal Act for property located at 835 Fernet Avenue with a revenue reduction of $1,688.91. Can I get a mover and seconder on that one, please? Councillor McTaggart and Councillor Mackey. Any discussion? All in favor? It's carried. No one was opposed. This next one gives me some pleasure to put on the floor. That the resolution reads that council appoint Wayne Richies as the interim fire chief following his successful application, and that a bylaw be enacted authorizing mayor and clerk to sign and seal, and that Marcel Michaels, chief administration officer, be authorized to execute the agreement on behalf of the corporation. Can I get a mover and seconder for that, please? Councilors McTaggart and Morrison. Any discussion, councilors? Councilor Bean?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I'm just curious why they chose the term 12 months. What happens if the fire chief returns before that 12 months? I don't know what happens. So maybe Manager Sexton could fill us in on why that they put a term of 12 months on. Thank you.
Yeah, HR Manager Sexton?
Thank you, Your Worship, through the chair. We just felt that anything less than 12 months would be, a disadvantage in giving Mr. Riches the opportunity to really step into the position and do what he needs to provide the stability and leadership and the effective management that's needed in the fire services department.
Thank you, Manager Saxon. Follow up?
So again, I guess my question is, what happens if the fire chief returns before the 12 months expires? I'm not sure what that is. Thank you.
HR Manager Saxon?
Thank you again, Your Worship, through the chair. I guess that's something that we will deal with when or if it happens. At this point, we have no update in regards to the previous fire chief. So we will just be moving forward with a very fortunate appointment of Mr. Wayne Riches as interim fire chief.
Thank you, Manager Sexton. Any other questions or comments? Councillor McTaggart?
Thank you, Worship. And I just for clarity, with this appointment, do we need to rescind the appointment of the CAO as the interim fire chief?
I would believe so, but HR Manager Sexton?
Thank you, Your Worship, through the chair. I think I will refer or defer that to the clerk if possible.
Through the chair, the bylaw does repeal the bylaw appointing CAO Michaels.
Yeah, you're correct, Councillor McTaggart, and it's in the bylaw.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay. Councillor McTaggart, or, okay. Calling the question, all in favor? It's carried, no one is opposed. Another HR policy. Resolution I'll put on the floor reads that council approve the updates to the disconnecting from work policy as presented, and the council direct administration to bring forward a bylaw at the next meeting of council for formal adoption of the updated policy. Can I get a mover and seconder for that, please? Councilors Firth and Bien. Any discussion, councilors? Calling the question, all in favor? It's carried, no one is opposed. Okay, brings us to item 11, which is Community Service Division reports. There are none. Item 12 brings us to Planning and Development Division reports, and there are two. So 12.1, I'll put a resolution on the floor that council approval of report AR-25-0904 agrees with the recommendation of administration to deem the municipal properties of lots 1 through 588 of Plan SM19 as not part of a plan of subdivision so that they can be consolidated as one lot of record through bylaw, and that the same deeming bylaw be approved later in this council meeting. Can I get a mover and seconder on that, please? Councilors Firth and Morrison. Discussions, councilors? Councilor McTaggart?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question, is this something we can do internally, or does it need to be registered, and is there a cost for doing this?
Manager Rob.
Thank you, through the chair. It's not something that we can do internally. The bylaw we can pass before you tonight, absolutely. However, once that is done, they do have to be registered. And given the number of lots that we're talking about, unfortunately, at this moment in time, I don't have an answer. Our lawyer believes that he can bulk upload basically the bylaw to all parcels as one. And so while we need to get this piece of it rolling, the bylaw passed while we're working with them on that. The cost to register is $1,200 or something along those lines. So provided it is just one, the cost is minimal.
Follow up?
Should it not be who's paying?
Yes, Manager Rob.
Through the chair. At this point, I don't know. That's going to have to be a discussion. Obviously, not the municipality, but the developer has asked us to do this to support their development because they need to provide parcel registry and parcel data for each of these And the costs of pulling all of those parcel registries is also extremely substantial. So everyone's trying to work together to find a solution here.
Thank you, Councilor McTaggart. Manager Robb, any further questions? Calling the question, all in favor? It's carried, no one is opposed. Okay, 12.2, another deeming. I'll put the resolution on the floor that council approval of report AR-25-0901 agrees with the recommendation of administration to deem the municipal property of lots through 1,475 of Plan SM23 as not part of a plan of subdivision so that they can be consolidated as one lot of record through bylaw, and that the same deeming bylaw be approved later in this council meeting. Mover and seconder, please. Councilor McTaggart, Councilor Behan. Questions or comments, councilors? Calling the question, all in favor? It's carried. No one was opposed. Okay, that brings us to Operations and Facilities Division reports. 13.1 deals with the award of the tender of the Hallett and Awandam Park construction. I'll put a resolution on the floor. And there's an option that has to be picked. I'll leave the option blank, and that can come out as part of our discussion. The resolution reads that council approval of report AR-25-0900 will provide direction to administration to proceed with option blank, to be filled in a moment, as detailed below, and that council pass the required bylaws to execute the required agreements based on the selected option. Can I get a mover and seconder for this, please? Councilors Behan and Firth. Okay, councilors. Discussion. Councilor Behan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. This is a tough one. I've really been weighing it for a lot of the last month that has been on our past couple of agendas. I really appreciate the effort that's gone into both the Hallett and the Awandam, restoring it and refurbishing that one. And all the time it's been taken, and we've been batting this around for quite a while now, a lot of years, and it's time to make a decision. I think for me personally, I'm going to rule out 3 options. I don't like option 1 because I think it's too expensive. It's way over budget to be covered by reserves. And I'm also skeptical that the work can be done in the remaining window of the fall season anyway. So it sounds to me like it might be over a couple of years anyway. I don't like option 3 because I don't think there's any use in keeping or maintaining the boats if they can't be displayed to the public or used as a tourist attraction. And as for option 5, I find it quite expensive for a situation or solution that's not what we had envisioned initially. And I'm also worried that we're going to be in the same boat, no pun intended, down the road with more frequent, the flooding's been more frequent, it seems, and more severe over the years as global warming, et cetera. So I just don't think that's the viable option either. So I'm looking at options 2 and 4. And I'm glad that option 2 got combined, because at the last meeting I was a little unsure of the difference between 2A and 2B. So I'm glad it's just one option in terms of a phase development, which allows us to maybe get a cheaper pricing, and also we can get maybe more grants in future years to cover what's over budget. So I'm looking at that. I will be honest, I'm not 100% convinced that the potential return is worth the investment, but at the same time, I do realize we have to start somewhere with tourist attractions and going forward as a community, and that does cost money. So I'm looking at option 2 right now, but option 4 is my fallback position if council doesn't like option 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Behan. And I appreciate what you did there, and I would invite the other councilors as well in their discussion to pick the option that they favor. Further discussion? Councilor Morrison?
To your worship. First, I want to say the Hallett's been, it's always been kind of special to me as a history buff, and I've been on the Hallett almost every year that was ever open. We have family pictures on the Hallett. My next door neighbor worked on the Hallett. I just love hearing stories about at midnight the cook would have pies for the workers in Hallett. I could feel like myself on the Hallett in those days. But at the same time, I don't feel it should be a burden to taxpayers of Fort Francis when we have crumbling infrastructure in the area. Our roads are in bad shape. With $1 million over budget, this one thing, which didn't even include refurbishing. I just think it's too expensive to move forward with option 1 for sure. And I prefer option 5. I'd like to see it back in the river because for that $1 million over budget, we could deal with 10 floods, lifting that hallet in and out of the water for the price of $1 million over budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? The councilors are considering all weigh in. I believe very strongly in preserving these 2 boats. These 2 boats are our heritage. Fort Francis was built on logging and the pulp and paper industry. If you look at the old green $1 bills, you'll see identical boats to the Hallett and the Owandam on the back of that bill. And I think it would be absolutely a tragedy that we don't, I think, exult in our own history, which is wonderful. All of us here have grown up hearing stories about the logging industry and the pulp and paper mill, which lasted for almost 100 years and basically built this town. So I feel very, very strongly that it's worth our while to preserve our history. We have a reporter from Thunder Bay here, and he'll know that they lost some of their history. They had a tugboat that they wanted to preserve, but it never did get preserved, and now people are lamenting the loss of that. We don't want to do something that we'll regret later in not cherishing our history. And in terms of costing, I like the new combined option number 2, as Councillor Behan said. By taking this new option, we'll have a chance to get some re-engineering done, perhaps get a cheaper rate, but also have a chance to apply for more funding. But quite honestly, even going over budget on this, and I recognize that what Councillor Morrison said, we have a formidable tax burden, but we need to do something to make us a tourist attraction, and this is one of the things that we can do. So I'm in favor of option number 2. Anyone else? Councillor McTaggart?
Thank you, Your Worship. I've struggled with this. You're quite right. These are pieces that we should not lose because of short-sightedness, and we need to preserve them. I know that the numbers over the last 2 years for the tower, people are about 1,000 people a year are going up that tower. And I think if we can get the Hallett and the Owandam situated properly, I think that we can get similar numbers going through these great, or certainly going through the Hallett. I think the Owandam is going to be more of a static display. I'm really concerned about the dollars. You know, we projected 700,000 and it came in $1 million over that. And just to go back and to option 2 and spend more money on more studies, it just goes against my grain. I'm going to support number 5 and put it back in the water and place the Owandam in front of where the Hallett currently sits in that green space.
Thank you, Councillor McTaggart. Councillor Snack here first. Do you want to weigh in? Yes?
No, Nelson. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I asked this question last meeting, I believe, and I maybe can ask it again. I just want to be clear in my mind that because we did not vote to refurbish the Hallett, I'm struggling with the value of a tourist attraction that people can't go on or tour and visit. So I'm wondering, by choosing option 2, does that preclude us from maybe refurbishing it down the road in a future budget year when we might have more grants to access? Because I don't see the point of having a boat on display if people can't tour it. Thank you.
Sub-Manager Miller.
Thank you. Through the chair, positioning the Hallett and Owandam, well, not so much the Owandam because it's the Hallett that requires the refurbishing, placing it into its final spot. You'd probably be able to do some interior refinishing. However, to completely refinish the exterior would require removing it from the river into a location that the work could be completed and then returned to the river. So there'd be a couple of crane lifts, and then you would most likely hoard it in wherever the work is being completed. And then once that is done and the environment's adequately protected and restored, return the boat to its spot on the river.
Thanks, Manager Miller. Councillor Bean?
Just to
follow-up?
clarify, if it was dry docked, like option 2 is, would that still allow us to refurbish it interiors down the road? So again, people can tour it. That's what I'm getting at, sir. Thank you.
Through the chair, yeah, it would be similar. We could do the interior on land. There would probably be some lifting required to still completely refinish the underside to protect it from rusting or whatnot. Or perhaps that could be done before placing it in, just to refinish certain parts of it so that you avoid a future lift. There might be some logistics that could be done. I can't speak to it in entirety because we have not talked about that with any of our engineers or architects on this project yet.
Okay. Councillor Morrison?
Through your chair, your worship. What I would like to see personally happen is, since it's not going to happen this year, I'd like to see a refurbishing tender out. Hopefully my motion here passes later on where we can invite some people to tender on it and then have it refurbished and then lifted back in the river, like refurbished on spot, which was started last year by a local contractor, and then have it refurbished, hopefully affordably, then have it returned to the river. Because I do believe if my original contractor was going to refurbish the Hallett for $200,000. Is that correct?
Yes, Manager Miller?
That is correct. A local vendor had, or a local man had quoted us $200,000 to do refinishing of it.
Okay, thank you. Further comments? Yes, Councillor Mackey?
Thank you, Worship. I'm looking at option 2, and I'd like to know exactly what the estimate is to do that option, first of all.
Managers?
Through the chair. Sorry, Councillor, I didn't fully understand.
Option number 2,
Yes.
how much is that going to cost us total?
Both phases, I'm hoping with a retender, we're probably somewhere in the 700,000 to 800,000 range. If we get a competitive tender over the winter while companies are booking work for 2026 and 2027.
Follow up?
More in line with the estimates that we were given by our engineers.
All right. I am leaning towards option 2 and 4, similar to Councillor Bean.
Anyone else? I'm going to poll council then to get your preferred option. You'll be last, Councillor Firth. Councillor McTaggart, preferred option? 5. 5. 2. I'm a 2. Councillor Bean?
2.
Councillor Firth?
5.
Okay, so we're tied 3-3. Let's see, we're missing a councillor. So we got to get this done tonight, folks. Can't just keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. So what is your druthers? Councillor Bean?
I think, I hate to say this, but if we can't do it right, I'm ready to say option 4. Thank you.
So am I hearing you say then you are withdrawing your option 2?
If it was defeated, I don't know what.
Well, right now it's tied, so we're just trying to get an option from council. We have 3 for 5 and 3 for 2.
I'd vote for option 4 then. I mean,
I haven't called the question yet.
Okay.
I'm just trying to get an option to fill in on the blank so I can call the question. Yes? But
I'm not changing my vote. We're tied, so I'm not sure what we do next.
well, that's what I'm trying to establish here. So we're going to need some movements. One of the 5s has to become a 2, or one of the 2s has to become a 5. Councillor Firth.
Without spending a lot of time, like a lot of it comes down to money for me. Like we're under a lot of pressure, so somebody can from administration or finance kind of help us a little bit navigate some of these big numbers. These are big. So if they could weigh in a little bit, maybe we can find some common ground somewhere.
Can you be more specific in what information you'd like?
No, sorry, I know.
Manager Miller.
Through the chair. On top of the past 6 weeks, spent a considerable amount of time with engineers and architects on this project. One of the things I'd like to speak to, which I can't remember if it was brought up in a previous council that I wasn't here, but for those that are interested in knowing the revenue numbers that these boats generate, unfortunately, when the museum does admissions for the museum, pallet, tower, I think those 3 things, it just is a single admissions button. So the data is confounded. We don't know what everybody's going to, but they do have access to multiple attractions. Through the time period of May, June, July, August, and September, the average monthly admission is $1,167 in revenue. That's how much we're bringing in. So over the course of a season, say $4,000 to $5,000. And then we, of course, have the students that are working and that sort of thing. I didn't get into that level of detail with the costs. Focusing on options 2 and option 5. Option 5 was something that came about as an informal discussion after the first council meeting, formalized at the last council meeting, and we threw some numbers together. So I think it was about 750,000 that we put down to put the Hallett and Awandam put the Hallett back in the water and the Awandam in a spot on land. Those are estimates, high-level estimates on our part. I will be a little bit forward and to say that they're probably a bit high, but that also reflects that I feel like every tender we've done in the past 12 months has come in high, above the estimates. So going high doesn't make me lose sleep at night, unfortunately. You know, we have LH North, a very distinguished contractor in the Northwest. They gave us, we talked this over a little bit with them at a water treatment plant meeting that we had last week, and they gave us some budget numbers on dewatering and building a coffer dam to do the refurbishing work of the cribs. And so that rolled into the $500,000 that we've budgeted for putting the Hallett back into the river, along with some other things such as doing the concrete repairs, doing some painting on the hull because we know it's going to be in the water. And if we paint it before going in, then we can avoid lifting it out to do other restoration work. As well, we have crane lifts. It's bringing a crane from Thunder Bay. We're probably looking at $75,000 for that crane lift. And then we have monies allocated for reconnecting the electrical, redoing an electrical in the boat, landscaping, and other costs. So to put the Hallett back in, we've estimated conservatively $500,000. And then we still have the Awandam to deal with. So we have to, fortunately, we can deal with local crane vendors for that. We have a couple of crane companies in town, which is handy now. So we've allocated $250,000. That would allow us to build some foundation, do some civil works, maybe a little bit of park benches and that sort of thing to make it an attractive feature down on the waterfront. As well, we have to transport it from the public works yard and any landscaping and lighting details that we might want to add. So we budgeted $250,000 for that. The other restriction that we have to deal with, there's the whitefish spawning restrictions. That's DFO, I believe, from the Department of Fisheries, the federal government. We're essentially restricted from working in the river from September 15th each year until May 15th. And then from May 15th to July 15th, we're further restricted for walleye spawning. So we essentially have a window to do any river work from July 15th to September 15th. So contractors also have to plan accordingly and window that critical construction time out for the work. But if they know in advance, it's not so bad to accommodate. So those are kind of the numbers that I've been playing with, Councillor Firth, for the past several months.
I think it also needs to be said, we're very, very grateful because we sent this back to you several times, and I know that it's greatly increased your workload. So we are very, very grateful for the work you've put in on this. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Manager Rob.
Thank you, through the chair. If I can just add to looking at the two numbers and to Mr. Miller's point, option number two, the scope of option number two, to a certain extent, is within our reach, and we can do things through tendering. We can do things through design to offer us flexibility to a point on how much we want to spend on option number two. And so we can control the risk there with a retender. Option number five, we reached out to the people that we could reach out to in the time that we had to answer some of the questions for things we don't do all the time, such as building cofferdams, to get some reasonable pricing on that. But option number five's price is pretty unknown. A lot of it is speculative. A lot of it is, well, if the foundation for the Awandam looks like this is probably a reasonable price. So option number five does carry the cost for option number five does carry a high risk in terms of what it will actually be once we do get into a dewatered state in the river and can look at the foundations, get an engineer in there, figure out what is going to be involved in rehabilitating them. Right now, they're underwater. You can't even see them. So we're a long ways away from being able to understand what sort of work we need to do on those foundations. So both options do carry risk. Option number five, there's a lot of risk in the numbers before you. Option number two, there's also a lot of risk because we are looking to go back out to tender, but there's a better opportunity for mitigation.
Thank you, Manager Rob. Councillor McTaggart and then Councillor, go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. With option two, I don't see any solid numbers. There's nothing to work with. I know that we're maybe 750,000 put it back in the water, and to Mr. Miller's comment, he thinks he may be high, but that's fine. We'll go with the 750, and that's not far off what we had budgeted. But I don't see any solid numbers for option number two.
Thank you. Councillor Mackey.
Thank you, Worship. I'm looking at what our administration is now telling us, and if option two and option five are actually pretty much the same price, option two, putting it on land, seems to make more sense than putting it over top of water. On land, you're not going to have any more issues. And we don't need to be putting upon future councils future million-dollar bills because of another flood. So I think all things being equal, let's put it on the land and not have to deal with the water and the 2 months of the year that we actually have to do the work.
Okay, it's time to make a decision. If we can't break this deadlock, then we're going to have to, I hate to say it, bring it back to another meeting when we have another councillor here. But we really need to make a decision. This has just gone on too long. So are any of the fives willing to change to a two? Are any of the twos willing to change to a five? Okay, then. I'm going to then ask for a resolution to table to the next meeting when we will vote again when we have 7 councillors, or pardon me, a council of 7. Can I get a mover to table to the next meeting? Councillor Mackey, second on that. Councillor Morrison, any discussion on the tabling? Calling the question, all in favor? Okay, we're tabled till the next meeting. Thank you for the discussion. I know everyone is speaking from their heart and is very passionate about this, and I appreciate all the points of view. Okay. Moving on to item 14. This is a notice of motion. Notice of motion was given last week by Councillor Morrison. Councillors, you have the notice of motion in front of you, and I simply take it as read, that you've all read it, so we don't have to read it out again. Councillor Morrison, I assume you're going to move this. Can I get a seconder on that motion? Councillor Firth seconds. Any discussion on this resolution? Go ahead.
Through your worship, one of the reasons I brought this motion forward was just because of I've seen some of the tenders are coming in so high, or we haven't had a lot of bids on the tenders. I'm just hoping by revamping this a little bit that we'll be able to get a few more tenders for some of our projects and maybe a little bit more affordable. And if they don't have to join the website and pay that $439 fee. That's one thing we haven't really discussed too much was the price. I believe it was like $3,400 for the town. But if we have one tender to save $3,400, for example, if we would have got the Hallett done for $700,000, we'd be and had some more bids, or to save ourselves, save that money many times over, and I think provide better services for the amount of taxpayers' money. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? We'll call the question on this then. All in favor? It's carried. No one was opposed. Thank you for that, Councillor Morrison. Item 14.2, we have a motion to reconsider. Put the resolution on the floor that council reconsider resolution 883 on awarding the tender. I believe, Madam Clerk, that when this was passed, it was passed unanimously. I think anyone was opposed to it. Okay, so what I'm getting at is someone who voted in the affirmative has to make the resolution, so it can't be you, Councillor McTaggart. And we need a majority of 2/3, which is 5 votes. Councillor Bien.
Councillor Bernard away, I believe it's 4 now.
Yes,
4
sorry, it's 4 now. Thank you for that. You're correct. So can I get a mover on the reconsider motion? Councillor Firth, seconder on it. Councillor Mackey. Discussion. Councillor Mackey?
Well, I'll start this off. Well, I'd asked, and I haven't seen that my request has been addressed at this point, maybe because our CEO is out of town, but I had asked that some statistics be brought forward. How many times has this company been awarded a tender in this community? And of that, how many times have they failed to complete the project on time? I guess that'd be an interesting statistic to have. If they had 10 tenders and 8 times they didn't finish on time, that's something that we need to consider why we would ever give them another job. So I guess that's the first thing. And then I asked if it was possible to have somebody from the company here to explain why they can't get either of their 2 jobs in this town this year done in a timely manner. So there's my concerns. Why are we giving them something when they can't seem to get their 2 current jobs done?
Thank you for that, Councillor Mackey. Further discussion? Councillor Bien?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I'm just curious, maybe Manager Rob, is there a financial penalty the town would have to face by, first of all, accepting the tender and then not formally finalizing it when we rejected the bylaw last meeting? I just wondered if there's a financial penalty if the town would incur for this thing.
Manager Rob, go ahead.
Thank you through the chair. No, there's the procedural bylaw and general rules allow council to not only award to whomever they want, but until such time as the bylaw is passed, making the entering into the agreement formal, they can choose to reconsider who they award to at any time.
Councillor Firth?
Thank you, Your Worship. Question for Manager Rob. What does the landscape for these types of vendors kind of look like? Like, is this going to, potentially harm a relationship that we might need in the future? Or is this just good business practice to not reward people for not delivering what they say they're going to deliver?
Manager Rob.
I'll start with the first part of your question. The last two roadworks tenders that we've had two bidders, Bay City being one, McKinga being the second. There are other contractors out there. There are other contractors that pick up packages, or other contractors that come to our tender meetings. There's not a lot of other contractors out there that are looking for work outside of their home community. Such as Thunder Bay. Thunder Bay has got 3 or 4 contractors that don't work outside of Thunder Bay. They're sized and built to operate within the confines of the city, and that's just where they work. They're not interested in going out into communities around and offering their services. So with that, we don't have a lot of selection in tenders. Given that we have 2, we've been upwards of 4 in the past. With shortage of workers, it's getting more and more challenging to put a crew together that is skilled and able to do these types of jobs. They are labor intensive. They're hard work for long days through the hottest parts of the year. It's tough work out there. So there definitely is a risk of upsetting the 2 bidding contractors and then having all of a sudden 1 bidding contractor or no bidding contractor. So that is definitely an aspect to consider.
Follow-up question? Okay, Councillor Mackey?
Thank you, Your Worship. If you could advise us what the 2 tenders amounts were for phase 2? Like, are they minimally apart, or was there a substantial number?
Go ahead, Manager Rob.
After factoring on engineering, contingencies, MOB, demob, all of those factors, the difference between the 2 tenders was $15,000.
Follow-up?
Thank you. With the projects not going to get done, and there's both projects will be gravel for 6-8 months, who maintains that gravel road? At what expense?
Manager Rob?
Thank you through the chair. I'm assuming you're talking about this year's projects?
Yes.
They will both be asphalt by the wintertime.
Councillor McTaggart?
Thank you, Your Worship. I voted against the awarding of the contract because I was extremely disappointed in the fact that neither of the 2 projects, the one on Scott Street and the one on 3rd Street, were not going to be completed within the contract limits that were set out. When they bid the job, they knew the limits. They're not going to complete it. We haven't had a super rainy season that there would be that many rain days lost. Previously, Mowat Avenue was left in gravel one winter season, and now they're not going to finish 2 jobs. And I just, in good conscience, cannot award this when there's another contract extremely close, another bid extremely close.
Thank you. Further questions, Councillor Bien?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, maybe Manager Rob. Would it be unusual or any problems that would have one company do the rest of Scott Street from Net to Mosier, and then having another company do Mosier to Armit in the same season? Is that unusual, or would it present any problems that you can think of or foresee?
Manager Rob?
Thank you through the chair. It will definitely be challenging. for a whole number of reasons, technical and otherwise. I don't think it's insurmountable, but it's definitely going to be challenging. We'll have the contractor from this year starting at Fernette Avenue heading west. The other contractor will be starting at Mosier Avenue and also heading west. So they will be kind of working in tandem, staying theoretically equal distance apart from each other. However, there's lots of coordination that would have to happen in terms of tying all of the surface features together, the sidewalks together, the curbs together. There is the potential that the concrete subcontractor, for example, for Bay City, might be different than the concrete subcontractor for Makinga. So now you have one contractor tying into another contractor's work that may or may not be complete. And so there is, like I said, a whole raft of challenges with it. Is it impossible? No, but definitely a lot of coordination that would have to go on.
I have a question, and then I'm going to make a comment. My question is this, Manager Rob. So this project is now going to get done sometime next year. If we switch contractors, will it get done any faster?
Through the chair. So the contract dates for Scott Street Phase 2, regardless of the contractor, are the same. They're going to start in the spring, and they're going to work until they're complete. And regardless of the contractor. On top of that, even if, let's say, for the sake of the discussion, Phase 2 gets completed before the remainder of Phase 1 is complete, Scott Street will still remain closed until Phase 1 is complete. So at the end of the day, we're going to have Scott Street closed next year for a period, and one of the two jobs will be the one that is finished last, and the road becomes open and passable to traffic.
So no guarantees.
Correct.
Thank you. So this is my comment. I'm not in favor of switching contracts, because I look at this, what do we want out of this? Well, we want a finished roadway that's been done to quality specifications. And when a company bids, what I look for in the company is, again, quality work and price, and that they fulfill the contract. Am I happy that it's not done? Of course not. I get phone calls all the time from cranky people saying, why isn't it done? And I get all of the traffic going by my house. But as far as I'm concerned, the original contractor, I know that they do good work. They may be slow. Because they're slow, they're going to pay us a penalty. So they're going to fulfill their contract. Next year, if we get a new contractor, I don't think there's any guarantee that we're going to get the job done any faster. And there could be complications because we're switching contractors. So although I don't like it, that this is so slow, I'm still in favor of staying with the original contractor, because I think by switching, it could create problems. I'm going to call the question soon. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Morrison.
Your Worship, I just have a question. I want to know how the financial penalties work. You can explain just maybe how much it is and how it works and what they're going to be paying us for not having it done on time this year.
Go ahead, Manager Rob.
Thank you, through the chair. So we have liquidated damages clauses in our roadworks contracts, as well as others, depending on the scope of it. How liquidated damages works, basically you have a contract start and end date. Any extra work, delays due to weather, other things like that, add days to that contract duration. After you factor in all of those things, now you're into liquidated damages. So liquidated damages are imposed every calendar day, whether they're working or not, up until the point where work can no longer proceed. So for example, if per our contracts, you want to lay asphalt in Fort Francis, it has to be 2 degrees and rising. So once 2 degrees and rising no longer happens, they cannot lay asphalt. Therefore, feasibly, they cannot continue working. And liquidated damages would stop. Once they are able to start working again, liquidated damages restart and continue every calendar day until they're complete.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? Councillor Morrison, follow up?
A follow-up, yeah, I also wondered how much, like, is it per day? And how much per day?
Through the chair, it's $2,500 per day for this contract.
Further questions or comments? Councillor Bien?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Maybe one more question for Manager Rob. Administration is still recommending the Bay City contract be awarded, or Bay City be awarded the contract. Is it basically only because they were the low bid, or are there other mitigating factors that would support why your administration is still recommending Bay City over Makinga? Thank you.
Manager Rob?
No, it's just based on bid price solely.
Anything else? I'm going to call the question to reconsider. 4 votes are necessary for it to pass. All in favor of reconsideration? Is your hand up? Yep. Okay. It passes. It's carried. Do I have a resolution on that? We're just trying to get our parliamentary procedure down here. Yeah. All right, we've got it straight. So the previous motion says that council approval of report AR-25-0858 will agree with the recommendation of administration to award tender 2025-OF-09 to Bay City, which is the one that people that work on it now, for a total tender price of $4,157 and change, including a $200,000 contingency allowance in the town's portion of HST. And that an authorizing bylaw be prepared for mayor and clerk to execute the agreement. So we need to defeat that if you want to change, and then we'll put another one on the floor. So I need a mover and seconder on this to get it on the floor. Councillor Mackey? Councillor Bien? So again, if you wish to follow up with Councillor Mackey's motion in defeating this and awarding the contract to the other company, Makinga, you need to defeat this motion. So all in favor of this motion? Opposed? Okay, so it's defeated. Now we'll get the new motion on the floor. Thank you, Madam Clerk. And so the new motion reads that council award contract 2025-OF-09 to Makinga Contracting, and that a bylaw come forward the same meeting of council. Can I get a mover and seconder on that? Councillor McTaggart, Councillor Mackey. Any discussion? Calling the question, all in favor? And it's carried. Any opposed? Still carried. Thank you, councillors. Okay, that brings us to 14.3, which is another notice of motion from Councillor Firth. Do you have it in front of you, Councillor Firth? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've been working with this with Mr. Burrows. So whereas recent changes to the Planning Act of 1990 and the Ontario Building Code 2024 have made it more feasible to develop additional residential units in the province of Ontario, and whereas there is need for more residential units in the province as well as in the town of Fort Frances, and whereas the public may not be fully aware of these changes or opportunities within the town of Fort Frances, Now therefore be it resolved that council directs administration to present a report outlining options for creating educational materials relating to additional residential units to better inform as well as in the town of Fort Francis, whereas the public may not be fully aware of these changes or opportunities within the town of Fort Francis. Now therefore be it resolved that council directs administration to present a report outlining options for creating educational materials relating to additional residential units to better inform public regarding planning, building, incentivization within the town of Fort Francis, and that the report from administration be presented to council in Q4 of 2025 for consideration.
Thank you, Councillor Firth, and that will be moved, seconded, discussed, and voted on at the next meeting. Moving on to bylaws, please bear with me, there's 9 of them tonight. Recommendation reads that the following bylaws be introduced and read and finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, and sealed with a corporate seal and become law forthwith. Bylaw 58-25, deeming lots 1-1475, Plan 1-1475 of Plan SM23 not to be part of a registered subdivision. Bylaw 59-25, deeming lots 1 to 588 of SM19 not to be a part of the registered subdivision. Bylaw 60-25 to create a new multi-residential property subclass. Bylaw 61-25, adopt a youth counselor policy. Bylaw 62-25, adopt an employee conduct policy. Bylaw 63-25, enter into a GIS data sharing agreement with KGS Group. And Bylaw 64-25, enter into an agreement with the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund for the McCurvin Rink and Park renovation. And I noticed that this multi-residential property, which is in there, we defeated. Someone stroke that. So we defeated the create a new multi-residential property subclass, bylaw 60-25. So I'm taking that out. There's 8 bylaws. Any discussion on the 8 bylaws? Okay. I don't think I got a mover and seconder, did I? Could I get a mover? Councillor Mackey, Councillor Morrison? Getting a little punchy this evening. Okay. Now any discussion? Calling the question, all in favor? It's carried, no one was opposed. Okay. This is going back to the Bay City and Makinga thing. Recommendation reads that the following bylaw awarding tender 2025-OF-09 be introduced and read, finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with a corporate seal, and become law forthwith. And that is going to be number 2, which is 67-25 Makinga contracting. Can I get a mover and seconder on that, please? Councillor Firth, Councillor Mackey. Any discussion on that? Calling the question, all in favor? Carried, opposed? Okay, we don't have any items for closed session. Getting there, folks. So, recommendation that bylaw 69-25 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council of the corporation of the town of Fort Francis be introduced, read, and finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with a corporate seal, and become law forthwith. Mover and seconder, Councillor Behan, Councillor Firth. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried, no one opposed. And finally, having reached the hour of 7:13, that this meeting of the town of the council of the town of Fort Francis be now closed. Councillor McTaggart and Councillor Mackey. All in favor? It's carried. No one was opposed. Thank you, councillors. So it was very difficult and very good discussion. And I always love the collegiality of our discussion.